Hello, and welcome to episode number 6 of the podcast brought to you by us, the team behind the award-winning JumpCast Online. My name is Nick, and I'm joined by two very lovely and special gentlemen this evening. First of all, we have Chris. How are you doing this evening, Chris?
Hello, sir. I'm very well, thank you for having me on this podcast. Very excited.
You're more than welcome, anytime. Apart from when we're discussing anything Ryan Gosling based, you're banned then.
Yeah, good, thanks.
And joining me and Chris, supposedly, was Corey Hughes, who some of you will know from our site and from Twitter. But he had the audacity to get treated to a surprise trip to London for his birthday, which was very rude and inconsiderate. And we hope you're having a wonderful time, Corey. So, after losing one Welsh wonder, it only made logical sense to replace him with another, and I am here to wish Rhys a good evening. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm good to be here. Good to be back on the podcast again.
I know you've been on the podcast as many times as I have.
Yeah.
At this point,
Veterans.
I am.
I know. Veterans on their second appearance. Yes. So we've got lots of stuff lined up for you tonight. We're going to discuss Le Mans 66 or Ford versus Ferrari, depending on where in the world you're from. We're going to talk about some news that's been going on in the film world. We're going to have a bit of a chat about Christian Bale and Matt Damon and their filmography and what we like and don't like about that. And we might, if we've got time, me and Rhys will give you a little lowdown on Little Monsters, which is a film that came out in cinemas on Friday and was on Sky Cinema as well. But before we do that, I'm going to do a tiny bit of admin, so forgive me. As some of you may have seen, we've recently launched a Patreon channel where you guys can support us by donating small amounts of money each and every month. All the money that we raise will go directly to the writing team at JumpCast. They're all such a wonderful group of people who do it all out of the kindness of their own heart and don't ask for any money, but we'd like to be able to give them some, essentially, because they're very good at what they do. There's 3 tiers of donations, each with their own wonderful Ryan Gosling pun, which is very, very on brand for us over at JumpCast and JumpCast. Today we had our... I can hear the resentment coming from Chris's airwaves. Today we had our very first Patreon sign up to the highest tier, which I believe is called Only God Subscribes. Excellent pun.
Great name.
I know. And that entitles you to a shout out here on JumpCast each episode. So that was Hugh Adamson who donated today the $10, I should say, not £10. We're going international. And that was Hugh. So big thank you to Hugh. Hugh is a filmmaker producer based in Sheffield who's done some really great stuff. He's part of the LTBL Productions group, the Let There Be Light Productions, who are based in Sheffield. They're a really great group of guys and girls, so check them out on Twitter if you want to. If you want to check out our Patreon page, you can find it at our website at jumpcutonline.co.uk, and there's all the information there about all the subscription tiers, as well as the lovely people that have already donated. And if you're feeling generous, you know what to do. You can join the list. So that's it for the admin. Thank you for sitting through that. But we're just trying to get people to sign up, really, basically. So on to the news, which is film Twitter has been wild in the last few days. There is only one place to begin with the news section this week. After weeks of petitions and public outcry from fans, viral hashtags, memes, angry letters and tweets sent to the studio to demand change, it looks like the people are finally getting what they wanted. They demanded something, and the studio looks set to give them what they want. I am, of course, talking about the news that caught film Twitter by storm, the public movement to end all public movements, the Sonic redesign.
Yes.
Very good.
So, what do we all think about this? Firstly, what do we all think about the Sonic redesign? It's an improvement, isn't it?
Well, yeah, if you're going to go from like a weird hedgehog hybrid man to a cartoony hedgehog, it was a good change. It looks really good.
I just think, I do agree it looks better, but I think it looks a bit too video gamey for me.
What, set against obviously the real world characters and
exactly
and stuff as well. It's a bizarre mix.
I think if you compare it to, like, Detective Pikachu, for example, like they did at least give Pikachu a kind of a more realistic look, didn't they? With like the fur and stuff. And then I know that the first design of Sonic was not the best, but
I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be honest about the first design of Sonic. It was nightmare fuel. pure, unfiltered nightmare fuel. It must have been the most sort of memed image that when can't remember the actor's name, but when he breaks it into, it's like a wooden cottage type thing, and Sonic's in there, and they both scream at each other. That's still there. Oh, it's the teeth. It's ingrained on my brain for eternity. It was terrible. Yeah, sorry, go on, Rhys.
No, I remember. I feel like I was a bit more disturbed by one of the first posters that came out, and it was him sat on the Golden Gate Bridge with his legs kind of like spread apart.
Yes,
yeah. Trainers, and I was thinking, this is weirdly sexual for a blue hedgehog.
What do you mean weirdly? Oh, blue hedgehogs are they're good. I like them. That's all you could ever want in life.
Yeah, no.
But no. So obviously, this everybody, and I mean everybody, went mental when this was released, and rightly so. They absolutely tore it to pieces. But it did lead to an interesting development where the director. Jeff Fowler, I believe is the right director, came out and said, okay, we get it. We understand that we made a mistake and we're willing to make a change. And it was last week, wasn't it? The trailer came out showing this new design. First of all, two questions. One, what do you actually think of the film? Are you excited for the film? I personally think it looks like a bit of a hot mess still, but I'm not a 8-year-old child who the target market is. But so firstly, I'll go to you, Chris. What do you think of the film? Are you excited for it?
I mean, like you said, the target audience, it could be this year's, emoji movie. Everything like that. It's not for grown-ups. Well, it sort of is if you want to do that sort of thing. But it's for kids. It's for fans of the genre. So they'll lap it up. Everyone loves Sonic, so they'll go and see it in some form. But it doesn't look amazing. It's yet another CGI human hybrid. I mean, the thing that I've seen come from this is the fact that we have the power to now dictate what studios do, which is it's a bit scary. But I mean, that first Sonic went through God knows how many iterations, designs, and then we come along and say, "Shit, change it," and they go, "Okay," which is good. But it's how much power do we have? Well, I sound very theoretical there. How much power do we have?
How much power to the people?
Yeah,
that was going to be my second question. I'll give that to you, Rhys. What kind of precedent does this set for going forward for any kind of thing, be it something we're going to discuss in a minute, and a release of a certain cut of a certain film, or is it anything like in this instance a redesign of a character? What kind of a precedent is that? Is that a good or bad thing, or is it a bit of both?
I think it's ultimately I'm not sure if it's a bad thing yet. I just think it does set a potentially dangerous precedent where, like Chris said, it has now kind of set this thing in motion where, as an audience, we have the power to influence what a film should look like. And I think that, like, say, for example, like right now, in this big age of Marvel films and DC films, every character is wearing a CGI suit. And if fans don't like what the suit looks like, they can change that in post again afterwards. Why not just let the filmmaker do what they want to do?
Well, I'm going to be honest. Flipping DC should have come out and said, "What do you think of this new Superman's face? Do we like that, or should we change that?" No, I agree though. It's like you said. I think it's a fine balance, and like you said, at the minute, I think we're on the right side of it. But as you said, for the big blockbusters now are so dependent on the CGI and the special effects, and like you said, there's hardly. Again, it differs from production to production, but there's hardly any practical stuff left in the huge blockbusters. So it could, going forward, set an interesting precedent into how much power the people have. But talking of people power, what do we make of the events of the last sort of 24, 48 hours, where release the Snyder Cut took Twitter by storm? There were over 500,000 tweets containing it over the space of a few hours on Sunday afternoon. Yeah, it was huge, and that mostly was exacerbated by, we had Gal Gadot, or Gal Gadot, however you want to say her name. We had Ben Affleck, we had Ray Fisher, we had Zack Snyder himself, we had multiple other behind the scenes cast members and crew, and directors of photography, and all sorts of people come out yesterday and Saturday and even today, Monday, when we're recording, demanding that Warner Brothers release the Snyder Cut. Firstly, there's a couple of questions on this. Firstly, do we want to see a Snyder Cut?
No.
Rhys, Chris,
no,
save
no,
yourself.
no, Rhys, go for it. Yeah, go for it. I want to hear this.
So, where I stand is that, first off, the Justice League that we've seen is a total car crash of a film. It is absolutely horrendous. I think there are some kind of like light touches in it that I quite enjoyed. Like there was a nice bit between Flash and Superman when Flash kind of pushed that family to safety in their car, and then over the way Superman was carrying an entire flat full of people. That was quite a nice moment.
Yeah.
But as a film itself, it was a complete mess, and it became just a CGI catastrophe, especially in that last act. And
that horrible red glare.
Oh, exactly.
Everywhere. Oh.
And my concern with it is I don't know how much different the Snyder Cut is going to be, because I struggle to think how much did he actually reshoot, you know?
Joss Whedon, we're talking
about. Yeah.
Or Whedon, again, problems with pronunciation. I think it depends on who you believe and what you read. There are people out there who say that Zack Snyder completed the shooting on his version of Justice League, and it was in post-production when the unfortunate events which led to him stepping away from the project happened, and that's when Joss Whedon stepped in. So if that is the reality of the matter and the reality of the situation, then it could be a completely different animal. But again, and I know even if it's 80% the same and there's 20% something different, I'm still, it's got to be better than what we got in the first place. Chris, as a doubter, as a naysayer, as someone who doesn't believe in the Snyder Cut, give us your thoughts.
Well, I've got to be careful here because I might get trolled and lampooned by the billions of mental fans out there.
People say this about the Snyder Cut fan base. With my own eyes, I haven't seen the vitriol that a lot of people talk about, and that might be because I'm following the wrong people and naive and don't delve into the dark web. But I've not seen it. But too many people have said it for it not to be existent. So I'll take your word for it.
But it's good and bad, isn't it? I mean, look at that Snyder Cut, that other film that split people in half. What was it called? The Last Jedi. That shit.
That wasn't Zack Snyder.
Cancel the podcast.
Yeah, that
get Chris off. Chris, you're fired.
Hang on, that divided film fans. Back then, good and bad. Other fans loved it. The fans hated it. So now with the Snyder Cut coming out, well, not coming out, hopefully. There's good fans, there's bad fans, as with everything. But I don't get why the need for it is there. Is it because everyone knows it was a pile of shaz, and so everyone wants a second chance at this Messiah-brought Snyder Cut that probably doesn't even exist? It's just the fact that why is everyone like Gal Gadot, Ben Affleck, whatever they're called, Cyborg and Flashman, whatever? Is it because they're out of work? They need the...
Well, Gal Gadot's clearly not. She's Warner Brothers' darling at the minute. She's got another Wonder Woman film coming next year.
Yeah.
I think what people are, again, this is partially my point of view, and I think this is generally accepted, is that we had Man of Steel and we had Batman vs Superman, and again, I know it's divisive, they split opinion, but Zack Snyder's version of Justice League would have been the trilogy that completed that reincarnation of Superman. It would have completed his story, because you were going to have. We all know that there was going to be the black suit Superman in the Snyder version of Justice League. There was going to have the rebirth and all sorts of stuff, and that just hasn't happened, and it didn't happen the way that it was imagined originally, allegedly. Again.
So was that filmed then? Was all this black stuff, suit and everything? Was that filmed, or was that just what he wanted?
Zack Snyder is very active on Vero, which is social media. It's quite a small social media social media site, Jump Cutter on there. We've got a little blue tick, so go with it. And it's and he's very active on there, and he posts a lot of stuff, and I'm sure I've seen him. He's posted actual footage of or a screenshot of Henry Cavill donning the black suit. I think what you were saying about why Ben Affleck and Gal Gadot and stuff are all up in arms. I think it's just the thing when you're in something like this, which takes. I know we all sit on the outside and trash stuff because it's easy to, but this is something that's taken years and years of people's lives to actually get to the final point of releasing it. And I don't know, I think I'd be the same if there's something I bought into and wanted to do and then it ended up being something completely different. I think I'd probably be the same.
Yeah, it's a project,
yeah. Yes, so the final question on the Snyder Cut. If it comes out, will you go and see it? Rhys?
Well, I am curious about it, but I will say that I never watched the Batman v Superman Ultimate Edition because I heard that was better, but I didn't have the urge to watch or sit through lots of the garbage in that. And I don't even think it's that bad. I think there are some great bits in Batman v Superman, but it didn't entice me enough to want to watch a longer version of it. So I would watch the Snyder Cut out of pure curiosity rather than anything else.
Rather than expectation.
Yeah.
Chris?
Again, similar to that, there's parts of the Justice League version 1 that I enjoyed. I thought it was better than Batman v Superman. I'm not sold on the whole DC universe as yet, but it was fun in bits, I suppose. If the Snyder Cut comes out, like Rhys said, curiosity. I'll watch it, at home release to see what the difference is, what the fuss is. But I can't say I'll be there first day saying, let me see the Snyder Cut because it makes such a difference. No. I'm not.
I'm in the same, but I'll 100% go and see it. I'm more of a fan of Batman vs Superman than most people, I think, and I really, really didn't like of Justice League, the version that we got. I wonder if we'll get a David Ayer cut of Suicide Squad off the back of this as well. That'd be interesting. DC are going to release an alternative universe where it's just all the director's cuts that they wanted.
It could do, because you laugh at it. Look at Sonic, that happens, and then the trend now for releasing films again with 5 seconds more features, and that it's in. Who says in 1-2 years you'll get another version of a film, this cut or that cut or never before seen cuts? It could start a snowball that could go out hand and destroy us all if we're not careful. So be careful.
The end of film Twitter. We can only dream.
It will explode. Yeah.
Final thing I will say on the Snyder Cut is that it has made a hell of a rod for its own back. If this gets released whenever in the near future and it is not very good, I don't know.
What do you mean if?
It's faith.
Sorry.
Keep the faith, Chris. Keep the faith.
I'll try.
And that's it for the news section this week. So we move on to our feature review of the week, which is the review of James Mangold's new film, Le Bon 66. That was my best French accent, Rhys. Did you like it?
It was pretty good, yeah.
How long we've known each other, Ken? I ever break a promise to you? I will put you in the driver's seat at Le Mans. If you just shut your mouth and let me do my thing.
Fluent if we got was pressure on here because Rhys is a French professor. Right, so Le Mans 66 or Ford versus Ferrari. And here's a little synopsis for you. American car designer Carroll Shelby (brackets Matt Damon) and driver Ken Miles battle corporate interference, the laws of physics, and their own personal demons to build a revolutionary race car for Ford and challenge Ferrari at the 24 Hours of Le Mans in 1966. It was directed by James Mangold. It was written by Jez Butterworth, John Henry Butterworth, and Jason Keller, and it stars Christian Bale, Matt Damon, John Bernthal, Catriona Balfe, sorry, it's an Irish name, so it's probably pronounced Jane Jones.
Smooth.
Josh Lucas, Noah Jupe, and many, many others. We'll start simply to begin with. Rhys, I know your thoughts very, very briefly on it. We had a quick chat before we came online. Chris, Give us just a general overview of your thoughts and feelings.
Yes, well, in a nutshell, I loved it. I went.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Sorry.
I went in blind. Ford v Ferrari, Le Mans '66. I knew it was a car-based film. I'm no Sherlock Holmes, but I gathered that. I don't know much about Le Mans itself, but again, Chris and Bale for me, very watchable, very likable. Matt Damon, yeah, he's good. I'll take him. But it looked to be one of those post-summer film where all the hidden gems come out. I think pre-award season, post-blockbuster, but some real good ones come out there. So I thought I'll give it a try. Why not? Went in blind. Came out wanting to drive around the car park, revving up to 7,000. I was loving it. It was really good, really good. I recommend it to everyone. Go and see it.
Rhys, fire it over to you. Same question.
I think I echo what Chris was saying. I thought it was generally brilliant. It was one of those things I was not really expecting much. I heard it was good and a bit of a crowd pleaser, but I didn't think I would love it as much as I did. I thought the character dynamics between Bale and Damon were really, really good. I thought it was shot really, really nicely, especially the race sequences are really good.
Yeah.
And I just really like the idea of a bit of a mini underdog story. I understand that it's about a big corporation being an underdog, but putting that aside, it is a story of a company trying to beat the best company in the world, and it was really, really entertaining. And one of the best things I can say about it is a very, very good, crowd pleasing November now film.
It is. I'll put out a full disclaimer at the beginning as well. Racing films, sport films in general, they really do nothing for. I love sport. I've watched far too much sport in my life, but sport films don't really do anything for me, and racing films, car films, even less so. So I went into it with, like both of you said, sort of I'd heard good things, I'd seen good reviews, read good reviews, and I thought, well, it's got some good talent attached to it. You've got Damon and Christian Bale, and you've got James Mangold as well, obviously, who off the back of Logan can do no wrong at the minute. So I had high expectations, to be honest, and it somehow still managed to blow them away. I thought it was stunning. I think I mulled it over. I think it's probably my film of the year so far. I've seen The Lighthouse, which doesn't get its UK release here until January, so I'm classing that as a film for next year. Because if that would be this. Because when The Lighthouse comes out, go and see it in January. Because it's brilliant. But for me so far, Le Mans '66 was the best film of the year so far for me, and I can't believe I'm saying the words that I enjoyed a film about a 24-hour car race. I can't believe I'm saying that, because it's just not, on paper, it's not my jam whatsoever. And I think that's testament to the writing was superbly sharp. The dynamic between Bale and Damon's characters, Cara Shelby and Ken Miles, when they were on screen together, they were just so enigmatic. They had such good chemistry. Again, the acting talents on display were superb. Like you said, the car racing sequences, they were enthralling, exhilarating, and it was this perfect storm of all the elements that go into making a film coming together to create this wonderful. I loved it. I thought it was absolutely stunning. I have one big question off the back of it. John Bernthal, okay? Who did he hurt? What did he do to people in Hollywood, or Hollywood as a collective, that means he does not get more big acting roles? Because everything I see him in, he is absolutely great. In this, again, he's only got a small side part, but like I was saying about enigmatic characters and just screen presence, he's just got something, and I want to know what he's done wrong. Because if you think what he's been in the last couple of years, he's been in Baby Driver, where he was in the first 5 minutes and he said, if you don't see me again, I'm dead. Okay, that was that bye. He was in Wind River when he was just in that flashback scene in the cat. Oh, that scene is the best. Again, that's what I'm talking about. That is the best scene in that film by Country Mile. That's a good film, but that scene is an absolute blow-away scene. It's great. And I just want to know who he annoyed. What did he do wrong? Who was he pissed off in Hollywood that they're just like, now? Because he was supposed to be in First Man as well, and then they got sacked off on that. And I just want more John Berthel in my life. Is that too much to ask?
I don't think it is. And I think maybe it's because he is so charismatic that he might just have so much power that he would take away from the film, where it's like, oh, that film was good, but what about John Bernthal? And they just need the film to be like its own thing rather than the John Bernthal show, because I agree, he's fantastic.
Matt Damon and Christian Bale were like, we'll only sign up if John Bernthal gets as little screen time as possible.
Yeah, we can't be opposite him. He's too good looking, he's too talented.
He's great. So that's my Hollywood. If you are listening, which I'm sure you are, cast John Bernthal in more things. Thank you.
Isn't he going to be doing more in the Marvel universe? Was that just a hearsay again?
I don't know. Once Netflix when they all disappeared off Netflix because they've all gone onto Disney Plus, obviously. Disney, sort your shit out. We're not getting things till March, for goodness sake. But yeah, so I correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the Netflix Marvel stuff, did that all get canned completely, or is some of that coming back?
I don't know exactly, but I wouldn't be surprised if they do try and work them into the new Marvel series on Disney Plus.
Yeah, I have heard that Charlie Cox has been in. Is that his name?
Yeah.
The actor. Yeah. I have heard that there's been. Well, he's always been rumored to be wanting in on the MCU, the film, not just the TV series, the film stuff. So it'll be interesting to see if that happens. But yeah. More John Bernthal. That's what we've established from this so far. But we'll move on from Mr. Bernthal, and we'll go. Excuse me, Chris. We'll have none of that.
I'm not going to
that. We'll move to the other performances. So we'll start with Matt Damon, who plays Carroll Shelby, who is a former racer himself. He gets a medical condition, which means he can't race himself anymore. So he lives vicariously through Christian Bale, essentially. What do we think of Matt Damon? It was interesting because I see Matt Damon is billed as the lead character on all the posters. He's always first, and on IMDb it's the same. He's the first billed, but it's very much Christian Bale's film, I think. But what do we think about Matt Damon's performance? Chris, go to you first.
It was all right. Actually, I'm not a huge surprise spoiler alert. I'm not a huge Matt Damon fan.
That's all right, we can forgive that.
I mean, I've seen a few things he's been in. Well, like Martian, Private Ryan, Team America. He was in that or something. Matt Damon? I don't know. But yeah, I'm nothing against the guy. I thought it was good. You know, like I said, he does play second fiddle to Christian Bale quite a lot. But, and I was saying before to Rhys, he's 49. I thought he was younger than that. So
is he 49?
49 years old. You know, he's pushing 50. But for that respect, you know, he looks good. I'm not ageist. He looks good. He can act, as we all know. And I think for the character of Carroll Shelby, for the era, the environment, again, he sold it. He walked the walk. He talked the talk. And I think he played off perfectly against Bale's Ken Miles. So I think Matt Damon, you know, for what it's worth, is another winner in this, really.
Yeah, he doesn't. It's interesting. A lot of the emotional heavy lifting is done obviously through Christian Bale's character, which we'll get to in a bit. But the scenes that Matt Damon does get, particularly that scene when he has to go and he locks up the Ford executive in his office, and then has to go on that goes on that wild car ride with Henry Ford II. That scene, and then the fallout of that, and then the scene at the end where this is a spoiler chat, by the way. Where the scene at the end where he goes to see Ken's family again at the end after Ken's death, and meets his son, and then just waves to his wife across the road. I thought he the delicate stuff, I think he did really well. But then, as we said earlier, there's stuff where he needs to be at full throttle and full of energy. The scenes when he has that fight, that sort of play fight with Christian Bale on the front lawn and stuff, like, it's great fun. I think he did it really well. Rhys, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think he was exactly what you needed for that film, because he did play that kind of all-American man role really well.
Complete with cowboy hat.
Exactly, yeah. It was not very subtle. But what I really liked was the way he was so, like, the character, was so staunchly supportive of Ken, and he kept saying this thing where if you want to win Le Mans, you've got to have Ken driving the car.
Yeah.
And he was constantly on his friend's side. He was constantly doing what he could for his friend, and he was just such a supportive friend, and he was always checking on him during the actual big race at the end of the film. I just thought he was great. I thought he really sold the friendship really well between those two. And he had to be kind of both his minder and his friend is kind of big supporter as well, because obviously Ken was a bit of a loose cannon, a bit of a wild card. But no, Damon did that really well.
I think he shone. I think Matt Damon shone in that one. Like the man at the end, Chris and Bale doing the driving, won that bit. Matt Damon in the pits, I thought he did really good. The way he sort of carried himself, being a bit mischievous with the Ferrari team, getting right up in Josh Lucas's face as the Leo Beebe, the Ezekiel Ford. He had every sort of emotion in those 20 minutes in the pit lanes. Is it the pit lanes in the Mans? Is it pit lanes? Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. The car strip thingy in there. I thought that was he really shone. Showed every sort of emotion, every sort of conviction he wanted to as Carroll Shelby. I thought, he's nailed it. That's great.
Just off the back of what you just said there, Chris, you mentioned Josh Lucas's character.
Oh, what a prick.
Remind me. I was about to say, what an absolute creature. Absolute creature. That's testament to the writing and to the performances, but he is so unlikable and he is so slimy and so he made my skin crawl.
But I bet it's so accurate though. I bet he nailed that sort of executive perfectly, and it's just horrible thinking.
Well, do you think he nailed that role, or do you think it was a bit kind of like hammed up for the film? Like they had to have a villain.
Yeah, without knowing the story.
Yeah.
I'm having this conversation with my girlfriend as well after we went to go and see it. And one of her complaints about the film was Ken Miles' character is obviously this British guy. And they very much played on the stereotype that he was this British chap who was going, oh golly, oh blimey, and bloody hell, and all that kind of stuff when he was in the car, and he was, give me a bloody cup of tea, and stuff like that. But if that was what Ken Miles was like, and if that's what Josh Lucas's character was like, then fair enough, but without digging into the actual history of it, I don't know. But as Chris said, I can completely believe that the corporate world is full of slime balls like that. But no, again, testament to Josh Lucas. I thought he played the part extremely well. Although I will say, I feel like whenever I've seen him in a film, he plays kind of the same guy, kind of like a slimy, not very likable sort of villain. So
typecast.
Yeah, Josh Lucas. Maybe you want to, try something different. Otherwise, you're going to get a bad name. But yes, we'll move on from Josh to Christian Bale, who is. He's astounding. But Christian Bale's always good. We know Christian Bale, and I know the films he's in can be divisive. Look at Vice last year, or was it early this year, or was it last year? Vice, can't remember. That split. I know Rhys, you hated it. It split people down the middle. That did. But Christian Bale, no matter the production he's in, he is always superb.
Yeah.
Rhys, do you just want to sort of expand on what you thought Bale brought to the party and how great he is?
So when the film started, for the first maybe 10 minutes, I was not sure about Bale's accent, because I know
it was bizarre, wasn't it?
It was. I know Ken Miles is. I think he's from like the Birmingham Midlands area.
I think it's Sutton Coldfield. I think.
Yeah, which is actually not far from where I am right now.
Yeah.
But I remember for the first 10, 15 minutes, I thought this is a bit too cartoonish. He's a bit too Midlands. He's too British. He's too much of a cliche. But then, as you get to know him more, that becomes part of his character. That becomes who he is. He is a bit of a cartoon, and that's
what made him so endearing.
Exactly.
That's where a lot of his comedy moments came from as well.
Yeah.
Because let's not lie. This was I struggle with comedy, and this was a really funny film in moments. There's some of the both physical and sort of verbal comedy that comes from Bale's character is great. He's really quick and really sharp.
It's natural.
Yeah, it is natural, and then that sharpness is juxtaposed against this, like you said, this sort of clown, sort of caricature British character. It made for a really sort of strange combination, just all embodied by this one character, but it really, really worked. I thought he was great. Christian Bale.
Echo what you said. Like the first few minutes of him, I thought, is this like a Dick Van Dyke? Cockney, gore blimey governor. But as you said, you get into it, he sells it. He makes, the character his own, based on inspired by Ken Miles. But like you said, going against what your girlfriend said, I grew to love the little things like the, oh, you bloody arsehole, golly, testing the car, that real Brit. I can imagine people doing it in the car, saying, oh, you arsehole.
I do that all the time.
It's that thing, and going for a cup of tea. It is British, but if Ken wanted a cup of tea to make him feel at ease, that's what he did. And I think, as you say, Christian Bale is just, you nailed it. Again, so likeable and so watchable. Here's my cash. I'll go and see it.
Yeah, it's just Bale. I don't know what it is about. I think if you look at his roles, we're sort of delving into the next conversation here, but we'll do it anyway. If you look at Christian Bale's roles, he is so diverse, and the film always pivots around him, even when he's in an ensemble. If you think of something like The Prestige or something like that,
or Vice,
or Vice, even though you've got an ensemble what's that film called with Amy Adams and Jennifer Lawrence and American Hustle? Yeah. It's a film with loads of names chucked in together, but they always seem to pivot around Christian Bale, and the film sort of flows through him. It's quite a I just find him so engaging to watch. And like you said, Rhys, when you've got a character like this who is literally turned up to 10 on every scale, he's ridiculous. Again, like you said, I don't know how much of that is exacerbated for the purpose of entertainment, and how much of that was actually what Ken was like. Do you know much about the story of Ken and yourselves? Has it inspired you to go and dig in any deeper?
I know I did when I got home. I was on straight on Google, because I didn't know anything about. I thought Le Mans was obviously real, but I thought the characters, before I got into it, I thought they were made up, inspired by events that may have happened. So I thought Shelby, I know that name, not knowing it was Shelby Motors, like a dickhead. But then Ken Miles. Go on, sorry.
The only thing I was thinking of, though, if it was Thomas Shelby, as that, because I knew the name Shelby as well. I know the name Shelby from somewhere, and then I was like, Thomas Shelby. No, that's Peaky Blinders. Get you confused.
Peaky Blinders, the universe. Yeah.
Go on, Chris.
Yeah, no. So I was saying, I didn't know they were real people until the end, and when obviously Ken dies in that crash, I was like, fucking hell, it's horrible. Because I thought it'd end with them walking out the pits. The camera would pan up to the sky. Ken and Carol remain friends for 50 years, but then it carried on to that final scene when he crashes and dies, and then I thought, bloody hell, so a real gut punch. And then straight home, Wikipedia, I want to know about him, about these real people, this real event. So I was really sold, like I said.
It's like you're saying, the gut punch is made 10 times worse by the events of the film. If we go back to Josh Lucas's character, and his idea to have these 3 Ford cars cross the finish line at the same time. But he knew that the other Fords started further back on the grid, so if they all went over at the same time, then they would have technically been the winner, and Ken Mills would have finished in second.
I didn't get that, until the end. I didn't realise that. I thought,
if Ken had won, would he have gone back to go and try and create the perfect car, or would he have hung up his driving gloves and his helmet? Is that an event that unfortunately led to Ken's death, which I just thought it was really, really sad.
I don't think it was that kind of led to his death anyway. I think it was just he was the kind of guy that always did everything.
I was going to say
100%. He never left anything on the track. Yeah. And it was one of those things where he was testing out these new cars, and just a horrible accident happened. And I just think that what wasn't so clear to me in the film with that whole finishing at the same time sequence.
Yes.
Like Ken Mars was laps ahead of everyone. He had to get lapped 3 times over for that to happen.
I don't know how does Le Mans or any 24 hours endurance race, do they work in how many laps you do in 24 hours, or is it the first to do an X number amount of laps?
Great question. I did not think about that.
From my very limited knowledge, I think it's how many laps you do in 24 hours, because that's the whole point. It's a 24-hour race, and it's just whoever does the most laps in 24 hours. So yeah, like you said, Ken might have had to just chill on the back straight for about 3 hours, wait for his teammates to catch up.
Have a cup of tea.
Yeah, and I suppose what you were saying there is about him being one of these guys who he just won't stop until until he is stopped, unfortunately, like he was, or he's happy with himself that he's reached perfection. Did that sort of creates a sort of tragicness about the character, which I about halfway through, I was like, he's going to die in this film, because he had that near miss with the fire at the airport, at the trial thing, and then his son had that conversation with one of the engineers about fires and getting out of cars and stuff. And then when they started the race at Le Mans and his door wouldn't close, and then they hammered it in with a mallet, I was like, oh no, like he's going to get stuck in his car and he's going to set on fire and he's not going to be able to get out.
Yeah, it's that classic Hollywood preempting what's going to happen, and you know it's going to happen, but it doesn't. Yeah, it's horrible.
I was expecting him to die in the race, and when it didn't, and it didn't happen, I was like, oh wow, great, amazing.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, Chris, it's that the scene afterwards is such a gut punch, because it doesn't do what you expect a film to do. Like you said, it doesn't build it up and have this slow motion sequence. Oh no, look, he just puts his thumbs up to his son, says, I'm going out for another lap, I'll see you when I get back, and he never comes back. It's just...
I think, when Matt Damon started to do a voiceover again, they did it at the beginning,
yes,
I stopped eating my popcorn. I was like, hang on, why is he narrating
I've heard this before.
And why is Ken Miles on the track? This isn't going to end well. And it was like, oh shit. And it did.
It was horrible. It was horrible. And like, I think it was. I thought it handled it really well, because it didn't glorify it at all. Like, it didn't over dramatize it. We didn't have the massive explosion and the slow motion and the music and it didn't have like this tragic score sweeping across it. It was just the sad reality of the nature of motorsport, where
in a heartbeat
you can go out and that's it, and it's done. So I thought it handled that really well. So going back to Christian Bale again, award prospects. Do we think he's got a shot? The lead. Are we saying he'd go as a lead or a support?
I was just looking up there for your consideration thing. I couldn't find anything. I would say he would probably go as a lead.
I would say so,
because he's in the film so much, and he, like, even when he, in the first instance, when he doesn't get permission to go to Le Mans the first time around,
you stay with him.
Yeah, you stay with him the entire time. So I think that was a good indication that he is the lead of this film.
And it's his life story that we get the window into. It's his family, it's his kid, it's his wife, it's his house. We never see any of that from Carroll Shelby.
Would that work if Matt Damon is billed as lead? I don't know how the rules are, if there's any rules. Would Matt Damon not be the lead if he is billed as the lead? Or could Christian Bale, overtake him? See what I did there? Overtake him. Could he then be a lead award nominee, or does he have to settle for second best?
I have no idea, to be honest. I think they can. I'm sure there is some kind of sort of like they have to have so much screen time or something like that.
Yeah, Hollywood, if you're listening, let JumpCast know, please.
Directly.
Let us know immediately.
At the Academy, please let us know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so what do we think? I know the acting categories this year are looking pretty stacked already. We've got obviously Joaquin Phoenix for Joker, and we've got Parasite, and we've got The Lighthouse and stuff as well like that. Like, it's looking pretty packed already, even if you go far enough back in the years, like Taron Egerton for Rocket Man, which is Chris. Your thoughts on that compared to Rami Malek for Bohemian Rhapsody?
Sorry, did Oscar-winning Bohemian Rhapsody? Yeah, 4 Oscars. Move on.
Moving swiftly on.
Hey,
so do we think? Oh, don't start that. It's nearly 9 o'clock. We're recording this. All the names up.
My sounding board.
Christian Bale award prospects. What do we think? Where does it sit? Do we think it's good? Do you think he's good enough?
He's definitely good enough, I think. But I don't know if it'll be one that'll be pushed, or we'll just settle for this was a critically, and hopefully audience acclaimed film. Another peak in his career, that sometimes is enough. I can imagine Chris and Bale, that'll be more than enough for him to have a film as successful as this that everyone likes. So I don't know if James Mangold will push or if he'll just be happy that it's been well received. I'm not sure, really.
I don't think, like, based on like all the kind of speeches I've seen of his, he's never been that bothered by awards, I don't think. But then at the same time, I think he's great in this film. But I just think that the best actor category is going to be very, very busy this year. And I just think his might get lost. As good as his performance is, it might get lost amongst the more kind of obvious acting performances.
Yeah. So if we expand that, then if we look at James Mangold's direction, and like we mentioned earlier, the writing is exquisite at points in the relationship between Ken and Carol, as well as Ken. I think just Ken's moments when he's doing his monologues about what it means to be a car racer and what it means to be and what a car it's the same as anything. It's like a musician with their instrument. It's an extension of them, and that kind of stuff with Ken and talking about cars. And you've got to treat her nicely, and always like slapping the car on the steering wheel and say, "Yeah, good girl," and stuff like that. Like the writing was excellent, and I think the direction was excellent, and like we mentioned earlier, the cinematography of particularly the racing scenes was superb as well, especially in something like the 24-hour race where you've got to deal with nighttime scenes, you've got to deal with the rain. It was still so clear what was going on all the time. I thought it was superb.
I listened to Mark Kerman's review of it, and he was saying that apparently when they were filming the racing sequences, they actually had Bale on the track, but he was in the passenger seat with a stunt driver driving the car, so that gave her a bit more realistic feel to it.
Oh really? Wow, that's great.
Yeah, and I also loved as well in the film, you had those moments where kind of the camera would focus on the gear shift and then the pedal hits go into the floor. All those little touches added up to something, just such an exciting scene.
Yeah, I tell you what, the sound as well. Just the sound of those engines, like I said, the gear change.
Yeah.
Oh, it was like, I'm not a motorhead, but it was, core.
It was exhilarating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said, I wanted to go outside and start revving my Ford up and just doing some donuts or something,
There was one bit in the film when I remember there was a point in the main race when Bale was really going up against his kind of Ferrari counterpart, and it was a shot for about probably maybe 10 seconds, but it felt ages, where it kept cutting from Bale to the Italian, from Bale back and forth for ages, and then the whole time the engines are revving louder and louder. I was like, this is gonna explode in a second. It was so good.
I was terrified. That scene was great when it was gonna happen to Ken, because it was just because I had no idea about the story going in, and like that scene was great. When they're literally alongside each other, wing mirror to wing mirror, inching forward on each other, and then obviously the Ferrari's was it the engine? Oh, his brakes failed or something.
Yeah, the engine blew.
So that just about, I think, probably wraps up the chat about Le Mans, unless anybody's got anything burning that they want to get off their chest about it.
Just one thing. Go on, Rhys, please.
Oh, got two things.
Rhys, go for it.
I would just like, thanks, Chris. I would like to just give a quick nod to Tracy Letts, who played Henry Ford II.
Yes,
he's one of those people that you don't see in that much, but when he's in stuff, he has a lot of power in his roles, and he delivered so many lines of venom in this film with so much gravitas. I know that sounds really kind of film bro-ish of me.
It was just the dead face he did. There was absolutely no facial emotion whatsoever. But the like you said, the venom coming out of his mouth. He was excellent. I thought, as again, the ensemble was brilliant. And if you even extend that to the Ken Miles' wife and child, I can't remember the actress's name at all. It's escaped me.
Catriona,
and Noah Jupe as well. They were both great. Everybody involved. They really pulled their weight here, because everybody has their own little moment, little moment to shine, and I think they all took it with both hands and ran with it. Chris, what was your last?
No, just going to go back to hopefully award season with Bale. Same is not is he worth it, but is this role worth it? Let's not forget last year he was up for an Oscar for Best Actor for Vice, but he was beaten by Rami Malek in Bohemian Rhapsody.
Anyway, so we asked.
just saying.
Thank you for that, Chris.
All
excellent input as always.
All right.
So, as is customary now, we reached out to the Twitterverse to get some of your thoughts on it. So I'm just going to reel some of those off, and then we'll delve into a chat a little bit about Christian Bale and Matt Damon, and just them generally as actors and how much we like or dislike them. So Through the Silver Screen wrote, Matt Damon and Christian Bale are both exceptional in an enthralling story about two men in their search for greatness. Mangold's direction for those racing seats was just... And then there's a gif of Chef's Kiss by one of the Jonas Brothers. I don't know which one it is. Christopher Galatska said, I enjoyed it even better in IMAX. Josh Lucas's character is a bigger villain this year than Thanos. Slimy prick. Both Bale and Damon are fantastic, as are the supporting actors. The fight scene and the car scene with Henry Ford II are two of this year's funniest scenes. What else have we got here? Josh Barton said James Mangold delivers a fast and furious take on the battle between Ford and Ferrari with high-octane racing action and two fine performances from Christian Bale and Matt Damon. Most importantly, never forget the men behind the machine to make us all really care about it.
Yeah.
And finally, we have John Bridges, who says, also no pretentious theme. Oh, wait, no, actually, I'll start again. That is not the start of his review. Oh, he's got a whole thread of it. Let me find it. Hang on. Where are we? The penultimate film of my time at this year's festival was Le Mans 66. It's a gripping and entertaining ride. It ironically doesn't take things as slow as it should sometimes, but that doesn't hinder the fun or the heart. It's safe, but certainly a good time too. No one gets a golden moment to shine, but I wouldn't be surprised if this nails Bale and Damon's nominations. I'm not sure I'm its biggest fan or that it's doing much fresh, but I sense it's going to have a good rewatch value thanks to those performances. That chemistry alone, off that chemistry alone. Granted, my thoughts, the good and the bad, may be sentimental. My father and I bonded a lot over Ron Howard film Rush, and it was one of the Venn diagram of things that we enjoyed together. So when we see a film so similar to like this, it's hard not to think how he would have loved it. That's a wonderful testament from John there. I was just about to say I have not seen Rush, but as I said before, this is not a genre that I've had any sort of inclination to delve into. But off the back of Le Mans 66, maybe I will. Oh, one last thing before we move on to Christian Bale, Matt Damon chat. Le Mans 66 or Ford versus Ferrari, which is the more fitting title?
They both sort of sell the film. There's a Le Mans 66 and there's a Ford versus Ferrari. Maybe you should do Ford versus Ferrari hyphen Le Mans 66.
Le Mans 66 and Le Mans 66.
Blend it up a bit, you know.
I like Le Mans 66 just because...
You would, Rhys.
I would, because it's French. But I also like it because it does kind of like set the time period. And I just think that Ford versus Ferrari is a bit on the nose. And I get the film is very on the nose, but just... I
think... Was Le Mans 66 the European title and Ford vs Ferrari is the American title, is that correct?
Yeah.
Well, I know it was definitely the UK title was Le Mans 66. And then it says... Well, Wikipedia, our lovely source, it says UK and other territories.
Oh. Well, Ford versus Ferrari was definitely the American title. Yeah. And I assume they were going for a good old portion of the American patriotism with that, so you can root for the American underdog against the European terror.
Yeah. Good point.
Yes. But that is our chat about Le Mans 66 wrapped up. Finally, before we move on, Rhys, a star rating out of 5 for Le Mans 66.
I would give it a very strong 4.5 out of 5. I thought it was really, really good, and I highly recommend it.
Chris, same question.
I'm trying to get out of doing halves because I always use that as an escape route. Not saying you are, Rhys, but I always do halves. So I think it was a 4, but I think I went in blind. I came out enjoying it more than I thought. 5-star. If I can give Ant-Man and the Wasp 5-star, I can give Le Mans 66 5-star. So.
Chris, if you can give Ant-Man and the Wasp 5-star, literally 90% of films are 5-star.
And The Last Jedi was a 1-star. So moving on. Yeah.
Oh, moving on. I would also give it 5-star. I don't like if Chris, if I was doing half stars, I'd have done 4.5 probably. But I just think because it took me so by surprise, because it is very much not what I would ever go and see myself. and it completely blew me away. So it gets an extra half star for that. So 5 stars out of 5. Le Mans 66 from me. Moving on, Christian Bale. Chris, what is your all-time favourite Christian Bale film? We'll go with to start with.
Probably Batman Begins.
You reckon?
Is that good? For my yes, a bit of water there. Sorry. I think he's done so many, but I think for me that one really not just the Batman lore, but Christian Bale. It just got my attention, and I just thought, this guy, he can act. He can really sell a character and a whole universe, but not be as you expect Bruce Wayne Batman to be. Like you said, every film he's in, there's a glint in his eyes. Go back to American Psycho as Patrick Bateman. There's a uncertainty, there's a menace to him. Even as Ken Miles, you don't know what he's going to do next. It's that suspension in the way he acts. It just makes you, sit on tenterhooks. What's he going to do next? How is he going to deliver this? So I think Batman Begins was the first one that really thought, I like this guy. He can do it.
Rhys, same question. What is your favourite? We'll move on to performances afterwards, but what's your favourite film that Christian Bale stars in?
I wrote a few down. I think I want to just before I get to my main favourite film of his, I want to shout out Reign of Fire. Which,
I was about to do the same.
Which is very underrated, and I was talking about it over the weekend, and it's one of those things where I just want dragons in more things, and I just kind of speaks to the fantasy nut in
even the John Lewis Christmas advert.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not awful. I've seen worse adverts, but that's a tangent. That's a tangent. But no, my favourite Bale film is absolutely The Prestige, which is also one of my favourite films of all time. Mm-hmm. I just think his performance in that film, I don't want to spoil it because it's from if you haven't seen, you should definitely watch it. But he plays a character that is really, really interesting, very, very a bit kind of modern in terms of the fact that it's set in 1800s London. But he has his own unique character, and he plays really well opposite Hugh Jackman. And their whole rivalry is just brilliant. And I think that is one of the best written, scored, cinematographed, if that's a word, films I've ever seen. So, yeah, The Prestige is my pick.
I would agree on both counts. I am tempted to say The Dark Knight, obviously, because The Dark Knight is stunning, and I know it's an obvious answer. But The Dark Knight is a great film. But if you're looking for something a bit sort of, it's not necessarily left field. I mean, it's Christopher Nolan, and it's not a sort of stereotypical blockbuster. And it like you said, it's a truly, truly stunning film. 2 performances, I'll kick us off on performances that I love from Christian Bale. Obviously Patrick Bateman in American Psycho. So good. I saw that film for the first time at university. We did it as part of my English course, and one of the film modules, and it was great. Another one I love, just in terms of pure commitment to the role, has got to be The Machinist. The weight loss that he undertook, and Christian Bale was renowned for gaining and putting on weight, and etc. To that extent, was Vice? Was that pure Bale, or did he have a fat suit on as well? He
did definitely fat up for it, but I think it was kind of like it was amplified with a suit on. Yeah.
Is that the? I don't know if that's. I've always just called them fat suits. I don't know if that's the official title. They've probably got some fancy name. But yeah, on the opposite end of the spectrum, I don't know if you've seen The Machinist.
I've not seen it myself.
But he must be all of 8 stone, 7 stone. He is disgusting.
It is horrible.
That. And it's a film about. It's a film about an industrial. He works in is it like a metal works?
Just a factory worker, isn't he?
Yeah. And he's got insomnia, and he hasn't slept for a year or something stupid.
Yeah.
And then he starts to lose his mind, and it all goes a bit weird. And he thinks that the CIA or something are onto him. But just in terms of pure commitment to a film and a role, I think that has to be in discussion I don't remember too much about the film. I remember liking it, but I've only seen it once, and that was a few years ago. So it probably is something I'll go and revisit again. But yeah, just in terms of pure commitment to a role, The Machinist. So go and check that. It's quite a like Chris said, not everybody's seen it. It's quite an unheard of one. So if you haven't, go and check it out. Chris, favourite performance from Mr. Bale?
I can feel that the Christian Bale season coming on now. Just had a look before Wikipedia, all these films he's been in that I've not seen. I just want to go and discover him, really, see what it does. Like you said, he transforms per role, per film almost. Terminator Salvation, that was pretty good. I thought you were good in that. You did the job in that.
Confession time, as people who outside of Jump Cut may not be aware. There's a running joke inside Jump Cut Online that I have not seen any films ever, and I decided to co-found a film website. The Terminator series is one of said films. I've not seen any of them.
Not a single one.
Right.
Not a single one.
I'm out.
I think I've seen a bit of the first one.
A bit of the first one.
I've not seen any of them beginning to end. I know that for a fact.
Okay, moving on.
I've seen more about Terminator on the making of Jurassic Park. There was on the behind the scenes stuff there they were doing. I think they used the same special effects studio as one of the Terminator films, and I've seen more Terminator footage on the specials, on the extras section of the Jurassic Park DVD than I have the actual film.
You don't have to watch it then. You've seen it all then.
I know. I've got all I need. So yeah, are you genuinely going for Terminator Salvation?
No. Let's not be silly. No, I think again it's so hard. I mean, one of his underrated films, I think, 3:10 to Yuma.
With Russell Crowe.
That's right. Yeah, this is actually James Mangold who did that with him. So
is it?
Yeah, 2007.
I did not know that.
Again, that's very underrated. Might have blown up. It's one of those. It's a remake. It's a western. He has to escort convict. What's his name? What's that bloke's name? Russell Crowe. That's it. He has to escort Russell Crowe across sort of dangerous territory to get a bounty. But again, he does a western. I love him. That's really good. But that and Batman Begins for me. Again, it's not just the film; it's the role. He sells it. I love it.
I've lost track. Rhys, have you said what your favourite performance is yet?
No.
Go ahead, by all means.
So I like I said, I love him in The Prestige. I think he's great in The Prestige. But in terms of performance, it's probably American Psycho for me. I think that there are so many scenes in that I just have ingrained in my brain, such as the big Huey Lewis in the new scene and all the stuff about his business cards, and I just think that performance is so evil, and it's one of those things that he's never been like that in any other film apart from American Psycho. And having read the book, which the book I think is absolute garbage.
It's very different, I've heard. I haven't read it myself.
I remember getting really annoyed at these really extensive scenes of materialism in the book where there would be like full-on chapters of just listing products. Oh. And like, this isn't doing anything. Move the story along. But anyway, that's another story. But no, he's never been like that in any of the film. I just think he's exudes such a scary power about him in that film that he's brilliant, and that's my favourite of his.
He should do more villainous roles, shouldn't he?
Yeah.
Thinking about it.
I will say on that note, have you seen Shaft, the 2000 one, not the?
I haven't. No.
Is it that did that the same year as American Psycho, and he plays the bad guy in that against Samuel L. Jackson? Okay. And his bad guy character, the villain, is a real white boy racist, which obviously, as you know, won't go down well.
No.
And that a real nasty, slimy, horrible piece of work. And one of those films I saw that he really oh, you nasty bastard. But a really good role, similar to the Bateman one. So if you've not seen Shaft for him, you'll like that as well.
Two of the films of his I want to see, which I haven't, which I desperately want to, is Out of the Furnace. Is that Scott Cooper did that one? I think, which came out a few years ago. That's supposed to be really good. And Empire of the Sun, obviously with the it's Spielberg, isn't it? I'm losing my mind. Yeah, Spielberg film.
I've seen that. I saw it on our lovely Fiona's recommendation.
I was going to say, I think it's one of Fiona's favourite films.
I think it is her favourite film, and I watched that as part of our big May Jump Cut movie marathon for charity. And I don't think that was the best environment to watch that film on. very
sandwiched in between two of the films, like 20 hours in.
Yeah, exactly. But I didn't much care for the film itself, but I did think that he was, I think, only about, I don't want to guess, but I think roughly maybe 10, 12, 13 years old, something like that. He's great in that film. He's really good in that film as a kid, so I can recommend that as a good performance of his as well.
Is that his first role? Was that his first film?
According
to
his
first major role, I think.
Yeah, that's his first starring role. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
So yes, we'll move it swiftly on, and we won't spend as long on Matt Damon because he doesn't deserve it. But what are our? No, I love Matt Damon. What are your favourite? Do it. Bang bang, all in one. Favourite film, favourite performance. Chris, go.
Oh shit. Matt Damon.
Go to Rhys first.
Go to Rhys first. I'll have a think.
Rhys. Favourite film and favourite performance from Matt Damon.
So he's had a weird career in the sense that he pops up in lots of different things. And I think my favourite film of his that is actually a Matt Damon film would probably be The Martian. I think The Martian's brilliant. And I think it's one of those things that it combines. I love sci-fi like as much as anyone, but it also is a very kind of like humanist. Everyone working together to save this one guy stuck on another planet, and it's a really fun, creative film that deserved all the praise it got. So that's probably my favourite film of his. But my favourite performance is probably, I think, Invictus. Weirdly,
I haven't seen that.
That's another sport.
I shock you all. I have not seen it.
He had to fight against the pretty dodgy South African accent. But in that film, I think that's a really fascinating story, and he does carry that role really, really well. Opposite, Morgan Freeman, who is just an absolute genius of a human being anyway. Yeah. So I think he does really well in that. So I think that's probably my favourite performance of his.
Chris, you ready? Or do you want me to?
Yeah, no, it's fine. I think I've thought of them now.
Go on then.
I think my favourite film, probably Saving Private Ryan. Isn't that?
Good choice. Solid choice.
We all love that sort of film. And I think in that era when he was just blossoming after Good Will Hunting and doing stuff, my favourite film of his, I think, pretty simple, entertaining, Ocean's 11. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I shock you?
Go on.
I've not seen any of the Ocean films.
Oh, really?
God.
Oh, God.
Not even Ocean's 8, the new one?
Not even Ocean's 8, the new one.
Oh, man. I'm really shocked at that revelation.
It's Chris, why? Yeah, I can sense the sarcasm. Mine is a four-way split. I think I really can't decide. Saving Private Ryan is one of my favourite films of all time.
You've seen that one?
I have seen that. Yeah. I've seen that one multiple times. But maybe that's where I'm going wrong. I should stop watching Saving Private Ryan on repeat and watch some new things. I'd love Good Will Hunting. I think the writing in that is just exquisite, and Robin Williams is just he's stunning in that. I really like where is it? I've lost it completely. The Departed. Departed's a great film.
Yeah.
And the little cameo he has in Interstellar, which we all forget about. I love Interstellar as well. But my favourite performance is as Donnie in Eurotrip when he sings Scotty. What is it? Scotty doesn't know.
Scotty doesn't know.
That's peak Damon. Absolute peak. So that wraps up our discussion about Matt Damon and Christian Bale, and that just about wraps up our episode 6 of JumpCast.
Wow.
So thank you guys. It's been a pleasure. Rhys, have you got anything you would like to plug? Anything you'd like to shout out? Anyone you'd want to shout out?
Well, you can follow me. Oh, sorry, Matt. You can follow me on Twitter at @rubja, which is very hard to spell. But if you can find me, congratulations. And then recently I did write a review of Midway for Jump Cut Online, which, if I'm being honest, I'm rather proud of it. It's got some really quite good paragraphs in it, if I say so myself.
You didn't like that film, did you?
I didn't like it, but I think I wrote about it quite well.
Oh, you did. It's an excellent review.
Thank
you can find it on jumpcutonline.co.uk.
You can.
Chris, anything you'd like to shout yourself? Where can we find you on Twitter? Anything like that?
Yeah, I'm pretty boring, really. I mean, shout out.
Right, okay, Chris.
Oh.
Before you start, you're not allowed to talk about Bohemian Rhapsody for the next 15 seconds. You're not allowed to talk about how much you hate Last Jedi or Ryan Gosling for the next 15 seconds. Go.
I'm Chris Gelnard. Yeah. No. I am on the wonderful Twitterverse. Gelnard, follow me. Part of the Jump Cut crew. Shout out to them, homeboys and girls. But yeah, just do what you want to do. Love each other. Have fun. And go see Bo Rap. Thank you.
So close.
I couldn't help it. I'm sorry.
So you can find JumpCast on JumpCast _ on Twitter. My Twitter handle is Nick__deal. You can find JumpCast on Twitter. You can find JumpCast Online on Twitter. You can find our website, jumpcutonline.co.uk, where there's a link to all the Patreon stuff that I mentioned earlier. In episode 7 next week, we are going across the pond again, I believe, to join Audrey and her team there, and they are going to be reviewing Knives Out, which should be very exciting. I've got a advanced screening of that next week.
I'm seeing that next week too.
I'm not.
So I'm very excited for that.
Yeah, so thanks.
We know why you're not seeing it, Chris.
James Bond and the Last Jedi director. What to
do? Right, so that's it from us. Thank you, Rhys. Thank you, Chris.
Pleasure.
And that has been us. I hope you have a wonderful week and enjoy whatever you watch over the next few days. And we'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.
See ya.
Cheers.